She just wanted her lonely dad to find love again. So she invited 3 women to secretly compete for his heart. But when one of them turned out to be someone from his past, with a truth even he had forgotten, the game turned into something far more dangerous and real. Daniel Reed wasn't rich. He wasn't famous. But he was everything to one girl. A humble high school history teacher with salt and pepper hair and soft eyes, Daniel had spent the last 17 years raising his daughter, Sophie, on his own. His home, a 2-bedroom cottage nestled at the edge of Meadowvale, was modest, bookshelves stacked with biographies, creaky floors that told stories of time, and family photos taped to the fridge like sacred art. No one ever visited, not really. No parties. No overnight guests. Only Sophie. Only the 2 of them, always. It had been 17 years since Sophie's mother, Alina, disappeared from their lives. No, not death. Worse, abandonment. Alina was wild-hearted, too free for the quiet life Daniel offered. When Sophie was just 8 months old, Alina packed her bags in the middle of a rainy Tuesday and said she couldn't do this anymore. Daniel never chased her. He never talked about it. He simply became both parents. He fed, bathed, carried, soothed. He showed up for every dance recital, every school meeting, every scraped knee and broken heart. And Sophie? She never asked what it cost him. Not until the day she found the box. It was supposed to be a normal Saturday. Sophie, now 17, smart, sharp-witted, and fiercely loyal, was looking for old scrapbooks for a school project when she stumbled upon a taped-up box in the hallway closet. Private Dad. Curious, she peeled it open. Inside were things she didn't expect. A faded photo of her dad with a woman who looked like a wilder version of herself. Old movie stubs, postcards from Paris and Rome. A handwritten letter, never sent, addressed to Alina. But it was the last item that hit her the hardest. A ring. Simple. Gold, worn. He had kept it all this time. That night, she couldn't sleep. Her dad was in the kitchen, grading papers. She stood at the doorway, unsure, holding the ring between her fingers. "You kept it," she said softly. Daniel looked up surprised. His eyes fell on the ring. For a long moment, he didn't speak. "You weren't supposed to see that. Why did you keep it?" she asked. He sighed, then leaned back in the chair. "Because it was the last thing I promised her. And maybe the last thing I thought I'd give anyone. But she left." He nodded. "Yes, but not everything ends with anger. Some endings are just sad." Sophie sat across from him. "Have you ever tried dating again?" He chuckled. "With what time? I was raising a hurricane disguised as a daughter." She smiled, but her chest ached. "Don't you ever get lonely?" He looked at her. Really looked at her. Then said gently, "Only when you're not home." Sophie couldn't sleep that night. She tossed and turned, thinking of all the birthday cakes Daniel had baked from box mixes, the way he never bought himself new shoes unless hers were brand new, how he made up bedtime stories when money was too tight for books. He had given up everything for her. And now, as she stood on the edge of adulthood, about to graduate, move out, begin her life, a terrifying realization hit her. He'd be alone. So she made a decision. He would not grow old by himself. Not if she had anything to do with it. It started as a wild idea. Sophie created a fake family matchmaking blog called Heart House. She designed it herself. Pastel pinks, soft fonts, and a headline that read, "Nominate someone you love for a second chance at happiness." She posted a short story about a dedicated widowed father who had raised his daughter with love, honesty, and sacrifice, but who had never found time to love again. She included a form, name, age, hobbies, a short essay on why they were ready for love. She didn't expect it to blow up, but within 2 weeks, 37 applications. Some were strange, some clearly unhinged, but 3 stood out. 1. Claire Winters, age 40, art therapist, sweet, soft-spoken, and full of warmth. She had a calm presence in her video submission and talked about healing people through art. Lost her husband to illness 5 years ago. Her smile carried the ache of someone who understood pain and how to survive it. 2. Vanessa Hale, age 38, former TV producer, fierce, funny, and slightly chaotic. Vanessa didn't beg. She dared. Her message: I'm not perfect, but I know how to love. And if he's worth it, I'll prove it. She was bold. Maybe too bold. But something about her felt alive. 3. Elena Rodriguez, age 42, bookshop owner, quiet, mysterious. She didn't say much in her video, but what she did say stuck. I don't believe love has an age limit. And sometimes, the best chapters come after the plot twist. Sophie watched all 3 videos a dozen times. Then, the plan came to life. She sent each woman a personalized invitation. Congratulations! You've been selected for a 3-week Heart House retreat, a getaway designed to help you explore connection, vulnerability, and the possibility of love. They thought they were part of a filmed project. They weren't. Sophie rented out a beach house near Blue Hollow Bay, a quiet coastal town about 40 minutes away. She used savings from tutoring, begged her dad's friend who owned the house, and said it was for a college documentary project on adult relationships. Her dad. She told him they were house sitting for the summer. He agreed, reluctantly, thinking it was just a chance for quiet before Sophie left for college. He didn't know what was coming. On the first day of the trip, Sophie handed Daniel a manila folder. What's this? He asked. Just some notes about the town. And, the women you might run into. What women? Locals. Don't overthink it. She grinned. Just smile and don't be awkward. He looked suspicious. Sophie, trust me. And because he always did, he nodded. Meanwhile, Sophie met the 3 women at a nearby cafe. She told them Daniel was unaware of the matchmaking experiment and that it was their job to see if chemistry would bloom naturally. Vanessa raised an eyebrow. So we're low-key competing? Sophie smirked. Let's just say, you'll know when he knows. And so, it began. 3 women arrived at the same beach house, each with a different room, a different story, and the same mission they didn't realize they were on. To make Daniel Reed fall in love. What they didn't know. The real gatekeeper wasn't Daniel. It was Sophie. And she wasn't just looking for a stepmother. She was looking for someone who deserved the kindest man she'd ever known. The summer air was thick with salt and sun as 3 cars pulled into the gravel driveway of a beach house tucked away from the main road. Its white porch swing creaked in the ocean breeze, and from its wraparound balcony, you could hear the waves whispering in the distance. Sophie stood at the door with a clipboard, her hair tied up in a high ponytail, trying to look like a producer instead of a 17-year-old girl about to pull off a psychological experiment in matchmaking. Let the games begin, she muttered, just as the first car door slammed shut. Claire was the first to arrive. She stepped out of a silver Prius wearing a lavender sundress and sandals, carrying a canvas tote with watercolors sticking out the side. Her hazel eyes scanned the house with soft interest, not anxiety. Sophie smiled. Claire Winters? That's me. Welcome to Heart House. Claire chuckled warmly. This feels like something out of a book. You might be right about that, Sophie replied with a cryptic grin. Claire would be staying in the seafoam green room, the one with the balcony facing the sunrise. Sophie chose it on purpose. Claire needed light. Next came Vanessa. She pulled up in a red convertible, music blasting, sunglasses on, wearing a sleek black jumpsuit and red lipstick that screamed confidence. As she stepped out, she popped her gum and looked around. So this is the love retreat? Thought there'd be cameras. Sophie smirked. We're more low-budget psychology than reality TV. Vanessa shrugged. Long as the guy's hot, I'm down. That's one way to look at it. Vanessa winked. Relax, sweetie. I'm half joking. I've read Jane Austen. I just never lived it. Sophie liked her immediately, but knew she'd be trouble. She gave Vanessa the second-floor room with the garden view and the record player. Vanessa needed something vintage to slow her down. The last to arrive was Elena. She came in a quiet navy sedan, dressed in a flowing skirt and an oversized sweater, hair pinned back, a leather journal in hand. She didn't smile much, not in a rude way, more like someone who didn't give smiles away for free. Elena? Sophie asked. Yes, I'm Sophie. Welcome to the house. Thanks. Her voice was low, calm. Sophie couldn't read her. She glanced at Elena's hands. No rings, faint ink marks near her fingers. A writer, maybe. Sophie assigned her the attic suite. It had the best view, but also the most stairs. Elena didn't complain. That evening, Sophie gathered the three women in the cozy living room. They sat with wine glasses or tea mugs, surrounded by books, candles, and cushions. A low jazz track played in the background. Sophie stood in front of them with her clipboard and the poise of someone far older than 17. "Okay, ladies. Here's what you need to know." She cleared her throat dramatically. "This is not The Bachelor. There are no cameras, no roses, no forced eliminations. But you are all here for one reason, to meet my dad." They blinked. "Wait, you're his daughter?" Claire asked. "Yep. Does he know?" Vanessa cut in. "Not yet," Sophie replied. "You'll be introduced naturally. The point is, he doesn't know he's in a dating retreat. He thinks we're here for summer. So, play it cool." "You want us to flirt with a man who doesn't know we're flirting?" Elena asked dryly. Sophie smirked. "I want you to be yourselves. I'll handle the rest." "And what's your role in this?" Vanessa asked. "I'm the one deciding who stays." The room fell silent. "You're judging us?" Elena asked, raising a brow. "Yes," Sophie said firmly. "Not for how you look, or how much you impress him, but for how you treat him. He's been alone for 17 years because he put me first. Now I'm putting him first. So if you're here for ego, pity, or a second chance at fame, you can leave." Vanessa whistled. "Damn, she's serious." "Dead serious," Sophie said. And for the first time, the women understood. This wasn't a game. It was a test. Claire met Daniel first. He was sitting on the porch, reading a history book, when she walked out barefoot with a cup of tea. "You must be Sophie's dad." "Guilty," he smiled, closing the book. "Daniel." "Claire." "I'm a friend of the family, I guess." He looked confused, but nodded politely. "You staying here long?" 3 weeks, I think. I paint. Thought the ocean might inspire me." They talked about art, how Sophie was always sketching as a kid, and the best places to watch the sunset. Claire was gentle. No pressure. No flirtation. Just warm. Vanessa made a splash. She strutted into the kitchen in denim shorts and a Rolling Stones tee while Daniel was fixing coffee. "Well, hello, Silver Fox," she said, grabbing a mug. Daniel nearly choked. Vanessa," she grinned. "House guest. Lover of caffeine and attractive widowers." He blinked. "I'm not widowed. Divorced? Abandoned, technically." "Oof. Even better. Mystery and trauma? You're hitting all my red flags, and I love red flags." He looked at her, stunned, then laughed for the first time in days. "Sophie warned me there'd be characters this summer." She wasn't kidding. Elena's first meeting was quiet. Daniel found her sitting alone on the back patio with a notebook. "Mind if I join? Free country," she murmured. "What are you writing?" "Poetry. Or maybe a letter I'll never send." "Haven't decided." "Sounds personal." "It always is." They sat in silence for a bit. He didn't pry. She didn't offer more. "You don't talk much, do you?" he asked gently. "I talk when there's something worth saying." He nodded. "That's rare." "I respect that." She gave him a look. Not a smile, not exactly, but her eyes softened. And just like that, a quiet bond formed. That night, Sophie journaled in her room. Claire, kind, gentle, healing energy. Vanessa, bold, possibly unhinged, funny. Dad laughed. Elena, deep, quiet, impossible to read. She added a column called Sophie Factor, which basically meant, would I want to live with this woman? So far, still wide open. The next morning, Sophie caught something that made her pause. Elena was on the phone near the patio. She wasn't being loud, but her voice carried just enough. "No, I haven't told her it's him. She doesn't remember me. But I know it's him. I'd recognize that voice anywhere." Sophie froze. "Wait, what?" She ducked behind the wall, heart pounding. Elena knew her father and hadn't said a word. Suddenly, this summer wasn't just about helping her dad find love. It was about finding the truth. Sophie hadn't slept. Elena's voice echoed in her mind. "She doesn't remember me, but I know it's him." What did that mean? Had her dad dated Elena? Was she some old flame from before Sophie could form memories? She tried not to jump to conclusions. but her heart thumped with a mix of suspicion and something sharper, protection. If one of these women had lied, the game wasn't fair anymore. And Sophie hated unfair games. Claire made pancakes that morning, whole wheat with blueberries. Vanessa offered mimosas. Elena sat quietly, sipping black coffee while scribbling in her notebook. Daniel joined them, amused at the energy shift. "Feels like I'm being spoiled," he said with a laugh. Vanessa leaned in. "Get used to it. Silver foxes are in style." Claire giggled politely. Elena didn't look up. Sophie watched them all closely. Her smile was tight, mind elsewhere. "Dad," she said sweetly, "you know what might be fun? A one-on-one day with each of the guests." He blinked. "You mean like dates?" "Not dates. Bonding. You're the host. Give them a tour. Show them your favorite beach spots. You're planning something, aren't you? Always." Daniel smiled at his daughter's scheming, unaware of the deeper game in motion. Daniel took Claire to a nearby art walk, rows of local paintings strung between palm trees and hand-painted signs. They walked slowly, talking about childhood, loss, and how color could express what words never could. "I became an art therapist after my husband passed," Claire admitted softly. "I realized I didn't want to just survive. I wanted to help people paint their way through grief." Daniel listened. "You're the first person in years to ask me about myself without trying to fix me," he said. She smiled. "Maybe you don't need fixing. Maybe you just need to be seen." Sophie watched from a distance, taking mental notes. Claire was safe. Maybe too safe? Vanessa's idea of bonding was far from calm. She showed up in hiking boots and declared they were going on a surprise trek to find a hidden waterfall Sophie had never even heard of. Daniel hesitated. "You do know I'm 49, right? Perfect age to break a sweat and forget about paying bills." Despite himself, he laughed and followed her. They got lost twice, argued over the trail, and eventually picnicked near a creek with soggy sandwiches and sore feet. "You remind me of someone," Daniel said as they rested. "An ex? No. Me, before life happened." Vanessa stared at him, then looked away. "You've got sad eyes, but a good laugh. That's a rare combo." Daniel smiled. "You've got a lot of energy. I've got a lot of scars. Energy hides the limp." Sophie, eavesdropping with wireless earbuds nearby, was confused. Vanessa acted shallow, but she wasn't. There was pain beneath the jokes. Interesting. Daniel found her alone again, as always, scribbling on the back deck. "May I?" "Sure. You don't say much. Neither do you." He chuckled. "Fair. I've been here before," she said suddenly. Daniel looked at her. "To Blue Hollow? To your voice." He blinked. "I'm sorry? You don't remember me." "That's okay. Should I?" She shook her head. "I was younger. You were too. It was brief. But you mattered." He stared at her, trying to place her. "You knew me from New York, 2003. I was a server at that old bookstore cafe you used to visit on weekends." Something clicked in his eyes. "The girl who read Neruda between orders?" She smiled, for real this time. "Took you long enough." Daniel looked stunned. "You used to give me extra whipped cream, and you gave me poems in return." They sat in silence. A memory, long buried, had risen again. And Sophie? She saw it all from the second-floor window, her chest tight, mind racing. That night, Sophie sat by the fire pit alone, arms wrapped around her knees. She was in over her head. She thought she was playing matchmaker. Now she was playing with real emotions, old wounds, and complicated truths. Maya, Daniel's close friend and Sophie's surrogate aunt, called that night. "How's the beach project?" "It's spiraling. Want to talk about it?" Sophie hesitated, then told her everything. The women, the plan, the fact that one of them, Elena, had a past with her father. "I just wanted him to be happy." "Sweetheart," Maya said gently, "love isn't about controlling the outcome. It's about opening the door. But what if I let in the wrong person? Then trust your father to know the difference." Later that week, Sophie was helping Claire unpack art supplies when Claire sat down beside her. "Sophie, I need to be honest." Sophie tensed. "Okay, I've been alone a long time. After my husband died, I told myself I'd never love again. But your dad, there's something about him. His eyes, his stories." Sophie nodded slowly. He's everything. Claire smiled softly. But if you don't feel I'm right for him, please say so. I don't want to be another person who takes from his peace. That stopped Sophie in her tracks. Claire was the first to acknowledge that this wasn't a game. And Sophie's walls cracked just a little. The next morning, Vanessa made a bold move. She kissed Daniel. It was impulsive, brief, a soft brush of lips under the orange morning sun. But Sophie saw it. And something inside her snapped. That evening, she confronted Vanessa on the back deck. You kissed him. Vanessa looked up. Anne, you barely know him. Neither do you. Not the man he was before you were born. Sophie flinched. You think I'm a child? No, Vanessa said quietly. I think you're scared he'll pick someone who doesn't need your permission. The words hit like a slap. But before Sophie could respond, Vanessa added, I like him. But if you don't want me here, say so. I'm not going to stay where I'm not welcome. And for the first time, Sophie didn't know what to say. That night, Sophie followed Elena on a walk down to the beach. She kept her distance until Elena turned. You can stop stalking me, you know. Sophie stepped out. I heard your call. I know you knew him before. Elena didn't deny it. I did. Years ago. He was kind. I was broken. He gave me silence when I needed it. Why didn't you say anything? Because I didn't want my past with him to ruin his chance at a future. Sophie looked down. I just want someone who won't leave. Elena's eyes softened. Then maybe you're the one who needs to let someone in. Later that night, Daniel opened his old journal, the one he hadn't touched in years. He wrote, There's something strange about this summer. The women are lovely, each in different ways. But it's Sophie I worry about most. I think she's trying to give me something. But love isn't a gift you can wrap and hand over. It's something you stumble into, often when you're not ready. He closed the journal and looked out the window. 3 women, 1 daughter, and one question growing louder. What happens when love becomes a competition? By the start of the second week, the beach house didn't feel like a retreat anymore. It felt like a stage, and Sophie was no longer sure who was acting. Daniel grew quieter. The women seemed more aware. Even the air felt heavier, like the tide was preparing to wash away whatever lies had been left behind. And Sophie? She began to wonder if she'd made a mistake. Sophie had never invaded her father's privacy. But after seeing him write in his old journal 3 nights in a row, and knowing something inside him was changing, she couldn't help herself. He had left the journal on the kitchen table. Open. Unlocked. Just one line stood out. I think Sophie brought them here on purpose. Her stomach flipped. He knows. She closed it quickly and returned to her room, heart hammering. That night, Vanessa found Sophie alone at the fire pit. You look like you just read your own obituary. Sophie didn't smile. He knows. About the setup. About all of it. Vanessa tilted her head. And you're surprised? I thought I could protect him. From what? Being loved? Sophie exhaled. From being played. From being left. From making a mistake again. Vanessa leaned back, staring at the stars. You know, the first time I got married, I walked out halfway through the reception. What? Cold feet. Realized I didn't love him. Realized I was marrying the idea of a man, not the man himself. Sophie listened. Your dad's not an idea. He's real. Flawed. Sad. Sometimes. But good. And if you try to curate his future, you'll never let him live it. Meanwhile, Elena was upstairs. In her room, a letter lay on her desk, unsealed, unfinished. It was addressed to Daniel. I don't know if I came here to reconnect with you or to finally let go of a memory I'd romanticized for 20 years. You once wrote poems for strangers. Did you ever write one for me? Or was I just a passing muse? She folded it, placed it back into her journal, and quietly cried, not because she was heartbroken, but because she didn't know what kind of story they were in anymore. The next morning, Sophie joined Claire for tea on the porch. Claire spoke first. I know your father isn't unaware anymore. Sophie blinked. What makes you think that? He watches us differently now. Like he's measuring something invisible. He's probably trying to figure out who's lying. Claire reached into her pocket and pulled out a Polaroid photo. It was of a little boy and girl painting a tree with finger colors. That was me and my brother. He died in a car accident when I was 10. I kept that photo ever since." Sophie took it gently. "Why are you showing me this? Because if I'm asking for space in your father's life, I owe you the truth about mine. I've carried grief longer than I've carried hope. But your father brings the hope back." That evening, Daniel asked Sophie to walk with him down to the water. They walked in silence, barefoot in the wet sand. Finally, he said, "You planned this, didn't you?" She froze. "Yes." He didn't seem angry. Just tired. "Why?" "Because you deserved a second chance. Because you've given me everything. And I thought if I could choose someone good, you'd save me from making the wrong choice again?" She nodded slowly. "Sweetheart, I never felt like I needed saving. Not until I saw how hard you were trying to protect me." He stopped, turned to her. "I love you. But love isn't control. It's trust." Sophie blinked through the rising tears. "I didn't trust myself to let you go. Then don't let go. Just let me live." Sophie decided to do something bold. She cooked a formal dinner, candles, music, name cards. Each woman had a place. Daniel sat at the head, Sophie at the foot. Halfway through the meal, she stood. "There's something I need to say." Everyone went silent. "I started this summer with a plan. I wanted to test you, all of you, to see who deserved my dad. I played God with people's hearts. And for that, I'm sorry." Vanessa glanced at Elena, who remained still. "But I also learned something. You don't measure love by behavior. You feel it by presence. And all of you have shown up for him in your own way." She looked at Daniel. "So I'm stepping back. No more judging. No more tests." Then she left the table quietly, letting go for real this time. Later that night, Daniel found Elena reading under the stars. "I remember you now," he said. She didn't look up. "You used to sit by the window. Read Rumi. You told me silence was your favorite sound." She smiled. "You called me the girl who whispered poems. I almost wrote you a letter. I almost stayed." Silence. "Why didn't you?" he asked. "Because I didn't think I deserved someone good. And I still don't know if I do." Daniel looked at her. "Maybe none of us do. But maybe we try anyway." They didn't kiss. They just sat. But something passed between them, older than their years, softer than their pain. That night, Sophie wrote her own letter. "You're not a kid anymore. But you're not grown either. You made mistakes. You tried to love him through fear. Now love him through freedom. Let whoever he chooses, choose him back. Not because of your blessing, but because they see the man you've seen all your life." She folded the paper and placed it under her pillow. She slept better that night than she had in years. By the end of week 2, everything was still up in the air. Claire had opened her heart. Vanessa had made her intentions clear. Elena had reappeared from Daniel's past like a song he'd forgotten how to hum. But Sophie? She was no longer holding the scoreboard. She was watching her father stand at the edge of something he hadn't dared in years. A choice. And soon, he'd have to make it. It was the third and final week. The waves outside the beach house were quieter, the sky softer, as if the world itself knew that something important was coming to an end. Inside, tension lingered in the unspoken. Claire painted less. Vanessa joked less. Elena wrote more, but kept her pages hidden. Daniel, meanwhile, had stopped trying to make sense of it. He simply was. He cooked breakfast, took long walks, and listened more than ever before. Sophie watched him from the kitchen one morning, noticing something new in him. Not confusion, not hesitation, clarity. Claire sat on the front porch with Daniel, sharing a mug of chamomile tea. "You're a good man," she said gently. He turned to her. "And you're a woman full of light, but not your light," she added. Daniel's brows furrowed. Claire smiled, calm and unshaken. "I think I wanted to be the piece in your next chapter. But I'm not what your heart is waiting for. Claire, don't worry. I'm not broken. I've been through worse." She touched his hand. "You gave me hope, Daniel. And that's more than most have offered." She kissed his cheek and walked away, gracefully, completely and without regret. That afternoon, Vanessa found Daniel at the garden. "So, am I still in the running?" she asked with a half smile. He looked up at her. "Vanessa, you've been the unexpected," she laughed. "I get that a lot. You reminded me what it's like to laugh without thinking, to flirt, to risk." She waited, hoping. But I don't think you're meant to slow down. And I don't think I'm meant to catch up." Vanessa sighed. "I figured. You'll find someone who can dance at your tempo, and you'll find someone who makes silence feel full." She paused, then added, "Tell Sophie she's smarter than most adults I know." Then she winked, walked to her car, and drove off without saying goodbye to anyone else. That night, it was just Daniel, Sophie, and Elena. The silence was thick. Sophie lit the fire pit again, not for heat, but ritual. Daniel broke it. "I remember the bookstore," he said to Elena. "I remember the rainy Thursdays and your half smiles." Elena nodded. "And I remember your kindness, your loneliness. Even back then. So why did you leave then, and why did you come back now?" She took a long breath. "Because I didn't believe in love then. And now, I think I do. Because of me, because of time, because of pain, and because of the girl who brought us all here." They both looked at Sophie, who blinked back tears. "I wanted to fix something that wasn't mine to fix," Sophie said softly. "No," Elena replied. "You just wanted to see him happy." The next morning, Daniel asked Elena to walk with him along the cliffs overlooking the ocean. They didn't speak much until they reached the overlook where the sea crashed hardest. "You scare me," Daniel said. Elena frowned. "Why?" "Because I feel something for you. And that means risking peace. Maybe peace isn't always the absence of chaos. Maybe it's knowing who you want beside you when the chaos comes." He looked at her, eyes soft. "Stay." She blinked, unsure. "Stay past the summer, past the safety, into the seasons." He offered her his hand. She took it, slowly, gently, like someone unlearning the language of fear. That evening, Elena was unpacking her suitcase for the first time when Sophie walked in. The air between them was different now. No competition, no suspicion, just acceptance. "You love him, don't you?" Sophie asked. Elena nodded. "Do you?" Sophie blinked, surprised, then smiled. More than anything, they sat together, cross-legged on the carpet. Sophie took something out of her pocket, the ring. The same gold ring she had found in the closet weeks ago. "He was going to give this to my mom, but she left before he could." She handed it to Elena. "If he ever wants to give it to someone again, don't run." Elena looked at the ring, then at Sophie. "I won't." The beach house was still there, but it felt warmer now. Inside, a family photo sat on the mantel, Daniel, Sophie, and Elena, standing together, sunlight in their hair. Sophie had left for college but came home every weekend she could. Elena had moved in that autumn. She never tried to replace Elena, never tried to be anything other than herself. Daniel wrote again. Poetry, mostly. He called Elena his quiet muse. And Sophie? She finally let go of trying to protect her dad from the world, because now she knew love wasn't a gift she had to choose for him. It was something he had finally chosen for himself. The final look into the lives that grew from that one summer. 5 years had passed. The beach house at Blue Hollow Bay still stood, wind-worn but proud, with freshly painted white railings and a new swing on the porch. The vines had grown longer. The sunsets were still orange fire melting into the sea. But the people? They had changed, grown, softened, settled. She stepped out of her car wearing a simple sundress and sneakers, her long brown hair pulled back in a braid. There was something different in her walk, still full of energy, but grounded now. Older, wiser. She took a deep breath of the ocean air and smiled. Home, college was behind her. A teaching fellowship in New York awaited next fall. But this summer was for family. This summer, she was coming back, not to play matchmaker, but to celebrate. He stood in the kitchen, older but still strong, stirring a pot of lemon rosemary chicken. He wore his reading glasses now, and still forgot where he left them. He looked up as Sophie walked in, and his face lit up like it always had. There she is, my storm in a teacup. Sophie laughed and hugged him tightly. Hi, Dad. You've gotten thinner. Are you eating properly? Yes, Dad. Do I need to visit your professors again? Dad. They both laughed. Some things never changed. She appeared in the doorway moments later, wearing an apron smeared with paint. She didn't say anything at first, just opened her arms. Sophie walked straight into them. I missed you, Elena whispered. I missed you too, Sophie replied. The both of you. They stood there, the woman who raised her, and the woman who helped her let go. Later that evening, as twilight kissed the sky, Daniel pulled Sophie aside onto the porch. He held something in his hand, a tiny velvet box. I think I'm ready, he said. Sophie's breath caught. You're going to propose? I've waited a long time to be sure. But this time, I'm not afraid. He opened the box. Inside was the same simple gold ring Sophie had once found in that box all those years ago. You kept it, she whispered. And now I'm finally giving it to someone who won't run. They didn't do anything dramatic. Daniel waited until the stars were high and the dishes were done. Elena was sketching in the garden when he approached her. He didn't kneel. He didn't perform. He just took her hand and said, I wrote you 1,000 poems in my head, but all I really want to say is, stay. Be my forever. Elena stared at him, blinking tears. Are you sure? More than I've ever been. She didn't answer with words. She just kissed him. And that was enough. That night, Sophie sat on the beach with her journal, the one she now used to write short stories instead of test plans. She wrote, 5 years ago, I tried to control love. Now I know better. Love doesn't need help. It needs room. My father found it. Not because I chose it for him, but because I believed he could choose for himself. She closed the journal, looked up at the stars, and smiled, because for the first time in forever, everyone was home.